Hey everyone, it's Nico, and I've got IronFall Invasion here for the Nintendo Switch, which is a updated port, remaster? I don't know. One of those things, which the game originally released on the 3DS in 2015. This is a third-person shooter, and over the course of this review, I'm going to be referencing the Gears of War franchise quite a bit, because for those of you that aren't familiar with Gears, this game is pretty much verbatim like that. Its inspiration was very clearly like the Xbox 360 era of Gears of War titles, and I don't mean that as an insult. Like, those Gears of War titles are fantastic, but I do want to make it clear that when I reference Gears of War, I'm talking strictly about the gameplay style and the way this flows. I am by no means trying to compare the two in terms of production values, because this game was only developed by a few people, whereas Gears of War had a massive team and a massive budget. So think of Gears of War as like the AAA third-person shooter, and IronFall is like its B-quality cousin, so to speak. So what this game is in terms of modes is there's a campaign, and then there's also a multiplayer mode for Versus, which is only online. There's no local, and unfortunately I won't be able to show any of that off because there was nobody playing. At the time of recording this, the game's been out for almost a week now, and I tried several times throughout the day and I couldn't find a single player. So we're only going to be looking at the single player content here. And then also in the multiplayer tab on the menu, there's also a survival mode, which basically is like a few different maps that are arena style. You could pick a character to play as well as 2 different weapons, and then it'll drop you in like an arena style map, and your main goal is to survive and eliminate as many enemies as possible. And that's basically what you do, and it's going to track your high score, which is the amount of kills you get. This felt more of like something that you might try once or twice, and I don't really think it adds a lot of value to the game as a whole. And then obviously there's the campaign, which is the main thing I'm going to show, the main thing we're going to talk about, and there's really not a lot of extras in the game, which I think is a bit of a missed opportunity, because you could have included like concept art or, you know, things from the original 3DS release, which would have been nice additions. They do have a jukebox here, which will allow you to listen to the different music tracks from the game. They're okay. The music's not great, not bad. But anyways, let's get into the campaign. Now in IronFall Invasion, you're basically trying to save Earth from an invasion. And you're gonna fight robots throughout the entirety of the game. So think about, instead of fighting Locust, you're fighting different types of robots. And there's several different types of robots. There's only really like 2 boss fights in the whole game, so not a ton of variety in the enemies you're gonna fight. And I would like to liken this game to like Serious Sam, right? Like, if Gears of War is the strategy driven, you know, third-person shooter, think of IronFall Invasion as like the arcadey, mindless Serious Sam style in terms of the gameplay. So as far as the controls go, the default control setup was really awkward to me, and I don't know why they have it mapped the way they do, but I switched it to be more akin to the norm for just about every other first and third person shooter on the market. You can customize the controls, so this was an easy issue to resolve. And you can run, jump, you can lock on to cover and maneuver along cover in various ways. You can shoot over cover. All of the elements of this, again, exactly like Gears of War, and it works. I didn't have any issues with the cover-based system. If you're aiming at something when you're locked on the cover and you don't have a clear line of sight at the enemy that you think you're aiming at, you'll have a little red X in your reticule, so at least you know you're not going to hit your target. And when you switch between your weapons, you'll get a bunch of weapons unlocked over the course of the campaign, and as you get them, you simply just push whichever button you have for switching weapons. I changed mine, so I don't want to say what the buttons are because it might confuse people if they play this. And it brings up like this Doom style weapon wheel, and it freezes time when you're switching weapons, which is nice. And it allows you to just quickly switch to whichever weapon you want. It also has the active reload system, again from Gears of War, although it functions a bit differently. In Gears of War, a perfect reload will give you a damage boost for the ammo that you reloaded. In this, it essentially gives you a bigger clip. So, same idea, functions a little bit differently. And this game, in terms of its combat, is solely relegated to the guns. And that's kind of my first complaint with the game, is that there's no throwable grenades, there's no melee, and there's a lot of times when you're gonna turn a corner and you're gonna have an enemy like right in your face. And they don't give you the shotgun until like a couple missions in, and they give you the shotgun after the opening missions, which are really close quarters. So I don't understand why the shotgun wasn't given sooner, because it would have been really beneficial in the opening missions, but hey, that's the way they did it. And the same thing goes for the sniper rifle. Like, the sniper rifle is really satisfying to use, and there's some really open levels, but they don't give it to you till after that. The level design as a whole is pretty decent. They do bring you to different areas and try to vary the gameplay in different ways. For example, there's these mini games. Some of them are okay, some of them kind of stink, and they give you a number of these over the course of the campaign. The other thing they do to try and mix it up is you'll not only play as the male character that you start as, it'll also at times switch you to a different POV, and you'll play as the female lead character. So she'll backtrack through areas you've usually already been to and assist the main character in various ways. And she only has a pistol, and sometimes she has like a flashlight in some dark areas. It felt very kind of Resident Evil in these moments just because of the way she played. She did remind me quite a bit of like Jill Valentine. Now the gunplay and all that functions the same, but kind of the overall vibe and feel of these sections felt a bit more Resident Evil. But I did appreciate that they did try to vary the gameplay and not just stick with one character, but also give you something else that's way more restricted. Because other than playing as her, I never used the pistol throughout the campaign. Ammo is pretty plentiful, so there's really no reason to. The game consists of 11 total levels, and they're fairly lengthy. The game has a hidden checkpoint system, which I have no idea when the checkpoints are or when it's saving, because it doesn't give you any sort of indicator on the screen. But if you back out and you have to go or whatever, it will respawn you at the last checkpoint that you triggered. Again, wherever that was, it's hidden. The heads-up display gives you all the pertinent information. You may have already noticed the health meter in the corner. It functions a little different in that it's actually your heart rate. So as you get hit, it'll go up. And if it goes up into the red and then you continue to take damage, then you'll perish and you'll just respawn at the last checkpoint. So that was a little different. I did appreciate that it wasn't as obnoxious as Gears of War, where you have like blood splattering all over the screen and you can't really see. I always kind of hated that about it. But anyways, that's pretty much all of the gameplay, gunplay in a nutshell. Overall, I did honestly have fun with it. I think something that you really need to consider, though, is that this is simply like an updated port of a 2015 game. So this plays very old school. This doesn't feel like a third-person shooter 2024 release. It does feel like Xbox 360 era of third-person shooter. But to be honest, I actually appreciated it for that. I like the simplicity of it. But if you like more advanced gameplay, more advanced gunplay, you might not be too entertained by it. But I also think that its strongest part of its gunplay and its gameplay is the fact that it hits 60 FPS consistently, even when a ton of stuff is blowing up on screen, because there's quite a few explosions. Like, it gets like Michael Bay level of explosions at times, it stayed smooth. It stayed rock solid. So it runs great on Switch. So on a console that doesn't have a whole lot of third-person shooters or just shooters in general, this one looks really nice. Again, it's a 2015 3DS re-release, so it doesn't look 2024 era of graphics, but it looks really sharp. It looks really nice. The fire effects and the smoke, all these things look really nice. I've seen worse, but it runs smooth, and to me, that was the most important part. So I think this is a great addition to the Switch, just for that reason alone. I do wish they added some more content though, because there's not much to do other than play through the campaign, and there's not really any exploration. Once in a while there'll be like a side room, and going to it will just get you some more ammo, but it would have been cool if they added maybe some like hidden collectibles, and they unlocked, you know, like concept art, or, you know, documents or something, scan, I don't know, something. So give us something extra to do, and I just think it would be neat to have like some concept art, or maybe some documentation from promos from the 3DS release. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. I don't know what the developers have available to them, but other than playing through the campaign, you just go from point A to point B, eliminate enemies. Once in a while you'll complete an objective. You know, usually when you have an objective, it'll have a little green arrow on the screen. But for the most part, you're just clearing out all the enemies and proceeding through a fairly linear level. It's kind of mindless. I thought it was pretty fun. It's not the most amazing game ever. It's not the worst thing ever. It's, you know, it's in the middle. It's like a solid like 70 to 75 type of game. The only true issue I had in terms of how it runs is I did have one time where it soft locked on me, and I had to basically open the home menu, force close the game, and reload it, and then just start over from my recently saved checkpoint. But other than that, it runs smooth. I had fun with it. It's just a mindless third-person shooter with some decent gameplay, nice graphics, and runs really smooth. So I can recommend this one, but just understand that this is still a 2015 re-release, and it plays like one. So hopefully you found this review helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments below. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you on my next video. But till then, have a good one.
Cool.